Hi everyone, this is Cosmic Coffee number 1. We finally decided to turn on the camera, so you gotta go easy on us, okay? Just to let you know that this isn't a podcast where we pretend to have all the answers. Honestly, we're probably still asking most of them. Hello everyone, welcome to the very first official episode of 4E's Academy. I am Jody Randall. I'm an aeronaut, a dream researcher, author, lifelong explorer of consciousness, and one of the co-founders of 4E's Academy. Today, I finally get to introduce you to the person who's been building all of this beside me. Although many of you may not have seen much of him yet, this is my husband, my partner in exploration, and the other co-founder of 4E's, Christopher Randall. Christopher's path into consciousness began through astral projection and OBEs. Over the years, that journey evolved into a very deep study of energy, how it moves through us, how it may move through the world and around us, and how consciousness itself might interact with physical reality. His work now includes Reiki and internal energy development, meditation, and very disciplined exploration of telekinesis. My own path has taken me deeply into dreams, symbolism, lucid consciousness, astral experiences, and the hidden language of the psyche. But in many ways, Christopher and I have been spending years exploring the same great mystery, but through different doors. Somewhere in between my dream journals and Christopher's bent spoons, we actually met in the great hallway of enormous whiteboards, and thus 4E's Academy was born. The 4E stand for Empowering Everyone's Evolving Enlightenment. Say that 10 times. This academy, though, was never really created to tell people what they have to believe. It was actually created to give people a place to question, experience, practice, discover what actually may be possible within themselves. So we don't claim to have all the answers. In fact, we actually believe genuine awakening begins when we become brave enough to actually examine our inner experiences honestly, without blindly dismissing them, but without surrendering our discernment. This is a place where ancient wisdom can meet modern exploration, where dreams, consciousness, energy, wellness, and the human potential can be discussed openly. This is where the extraordinary is approached with wonder and responsibility. For our very first episode, I thought it was really important that you meet the people behind this and the other person, the other half behind this vision. And so before we can show you what 4E's is becoming, you should know something about the people who dreamed it into being. So Christopher, welcome to the very first episode of our own show. Let's begin with the person beneath the practices.
Well, thank you, Jody. I'm happy to be here.
I'm
My own house, but that's fine.
so glad you took a moment to spend with us this morning. I know that you are extremely busy, so thanks for penciling us in. All right, so I know you because I've been with you for a very long time, but they don't know where you come from. And I know for you, it started as a child. You started getting into the Astral OBE. Is that where it started for you?
So, yes. I was influenced by a family that loves sci-fi fantasy and the aspects of go explore the world and figure it out. So, with those things, I already had a love for, like, the magic of fantasy stuff in stories, because my father was riddled with those. Those books were everywhere. Those were what was read at my house, those and murder mysteries of that nature, like the investigative type.
Yeah.
So I grew up on exploring the world and magic. So when I found, my first occult store, one of the very first books I bought was The Magician's Companion.
That thing is like
yeah,
that big,
exactly.
right?
And it was this huge body of work.
What a book to be attracted to.
Yeah, well, it was a huge body of work, and at that point in time, I wasn't like, if you want to say, being called to something there specifically. Like, I didn't go there to become a witch or to learn about Satanism or whatever those cases might have been in the extremes. I actually went there just to see what was there because
Natural curiosity.
because I came from a magician's mindset. I was looking at it from a magic perspective. So that really caught me, and it breaks down. Whitcomb breaks down like all sorts of stuff. It was just a compendium of stuff that he had experienced, researched, and developed across a slew of the belief systems, religions, methods of understanding reality, and all this different stuff. So in there, every chapter...
Did you say different methods of reality?
Yeah, different methods of perceiving reality. So each one of them in the book is too vast for this topic, though, or for here, but it shows how people would apply, like, the number 6. What belief structures or religions had the number 6 as their dominant structure, or the number 7, or when did we go to 11, 12, and where in the world those were.
Yeah.
And they all relatively went back to some source of understanding reality versus actually magic per se of what the fantasy magic was.
Okay.
So, and in the end of each chapter
it
was a
became
list.
much more than magic.
Yeah, and he had a list of the reference books that he got, usually broken down by categories and titles.
That book.
Oh, I've been through that book multiple times in the years because it's a great reference now because in something I'm studying, cosmology right now, deals with planetary stuff, and there is a specific chapter on the 7, which is the planetary system paired close to this cosmology I'm reading about. So I can go back to that, reference, tie in, and then there's, of course, as any good magician, there's tables of tie-ins to tables of representations, which for me was fascinating. But that's how I started.
That's how you started.
Yeah.
So, with it being how you started, obviously it expanded into something more. So you went from astral, so you started practicing the astral.
So at first to say I practiced anything at first was to misunderstand. So honestly, the books got me into other topics. The other topics led me to meditation. Meditation was good, bad, because I was a hyperactive child, so sometimes I could, sometimes I couldn't. I was picking bits and pieces from everything I read to piece things together, from like Gerald Gardner to Phillips and Denning to Whitcomb to a few other ones that slip my mind at the moment. And I was piecing some of this together for my own, if you want to say, practice or sorting it out. So, and I was always told to be experimental. Try things, even if you have the evidence that says it may not 100% be a good thing for you, but if it's not going to hurt you, and it still might value, you're gaining an experience in this existence, you should try it anyways. At least you experienced it, then you know for sure that you are not the anomaly, right? Like, it might be something you like. Skydiving for some people. Horrifying event, even tandem. Me, let's just jump every day. It's so fun, right? So it's a little weird like that. But getting back to what I'm saying is that as I pieced them together, I fell in love with ceremonial magic. But when you're 12, 13, 14, you don't really have anybody in your corner with money because you need the right type of materials. You need to understand how to write the symbols. You need a space that you can just scroll out all sorts of stuff and work with these things. That just wasn't practical. So moving into projecting oneself and having a controlled out-of-body experience became interesting because now it's something I can test, I can experiment, I can play with this because it's within my capabilities. And relatively it meant lay there and follow some instructions and something should happen. So it was pretty low-key, right? Pretty low effort, rather.
What I find interesting is that you mentioned 12, is that even back then, you were starting to want to figure your inner being, what you were about, why you tick the way you tick, or whatever you do. For most of us, we don't even get to that point of wanting or understanding that we can sit and sort ourselves out to like way late. You know, so at the age of 12, for you to already be trying to figure it out, and the fact that it started bringing you through this path of, you know, astral to OBE, and now deeper into, when did it transition from that to working your energy? Was it at 12 when you understood you had a natural, or what they deemed hyper energy?
So I would say from 12 until 18 was the read, research, experiment, play with projections. So I would say I probably didn't really settle on projecting until I was, let's trace this back, 90s, so 14, 15 is probably when I actually had my first experience, if I'm tracking time correctly, that I actually sat long enough to do there. That's so previously to that was reading, investigating, talking to my mom was always a soundboard for whether it was crazy or not, and things of that nature, and exploring it up until the practicing point. So then I chose to join service. So then that portion of my existence was research only.
Research only.
So
you were in the service for how long?
15.
So there's 15 years that you had to put your own inner journey on hold.
Yeah, I didn't practice any at any given time, really. I mean,
but the love was always still there.
So throughout my time period, yes, I found places to enjoy worship. So while I was in the service, I've had privileges to attend everything from Catholic ceremonies, Christian ceremonies, Protestant ceremonies, Evangelists, Baptists, two different types of Buddhists. I donated rice to spend a quiet weekend in a monastery in South Korea just to experience that kind of peace.
Okay, hashtag jealous.
Wouldn't lie, if we were back there now, I'd do it again because it was super peaceful. Like for a weekend, it was super chill to just not talk about anything. To be honest, you would think, like, I guess some people would have that problem, but the group I went, we all at the end were like, we're actually like happy we didn't have to say anything. It was like super exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then I've also went into some basement warehouse places that may or may not be a Luciferian or a Satan kind of confused ceremonial thing, just still investigating what is out there. So and to wrap that up, even going into Wiccan more as a solo to figure that out, and then when we met, doing a bit more group work or trying to find the coven or the community and such of that nature. Excuse me. But all in all, they were just trying to find some place to hang out. It wasn't. None of them were like, this is the home for me.
It
I was
wasn't
always
the
welcome,
level of
which was interesting.
Consciousness that you were used to or researched, or because a lot of times, people join these groups and stuff and find that they're still kind of at almost like a surface level knowledge, that it's not really taken the way it should be, but rather what the illusion or the perception of this is what we're supposed to be representing. You went deeper in your exploration, or craved it.
Yeah, and I think why, I don't know, I was always welcome at these places.
Of course you were.
But even as a youth, some people couldn't keep me around because I asked why too much. I remember an evangelical church I was attending in Germany when I was living in Germany. Wonderful, wonderful place. Great people. I talked to, I can't remember her name or her position at the moment. It's been so many years, but the head person there, often, right? We would have actually like afternoon tea because we enjoyed the conversation, and she loved how I approached things. But she also said, you ask a lot of whys. You're very curious. So it's never been that it was surface level, I think, is that the investigation of once you showed me this material leads me to want to understand it deeper, and then it stops. Like I have to branch away to figure out where that is, and then maybe it branches 1,600 different methods this way that aren't where I'm supposed to be looking, and nobody could really get into the depth. And I guess you could say it would be surface level practicing, but I don't think any of them had been asked to go that deep. And then eventually maybe you get defensive because why am I questioning your belief when I'm not questioning your belief? I was more curious as to where that came from, because I see this as fantastical. I could see getting behind many of these, but then when I look a little bit further, there's nobody guiding me, so I have to go find it for myself.
Yeah.
And I found that, just pulling back from naming something of that nature and going to like an existence perspective and investigating reality that way made better sense. For a long way of answering, I guess.
So then my next question for you is, I know that Reiki became a very big part of your life. Tell us what drew you to that.
So, fast forward through now out of the service. Well, not out of the service. I've met you, so I'm at the end of my period of service. Don't know this yet, but it's at the end of that period of service. And because we had gotten into moving from solo Wicca to practicing together as a family, then to practicing in a community, and we both had a perspective that came into, I prefer not really to use the word occult, so I'm going to change that to hidden, because the hidden information about existence and consciousness and those cosmologies and the magic that isn't illusionary in this phrasing I'm using here, that led me to push you while I was at work to go get Reiki certified, because our community was looking at exploring those kind of things. It was very interesting to you, and it was exceptionally interesting to me because
it was something totally different from
me.
me.
And the energy concepts I already understood from my own astral travel practice, understanding energy fields.
Yeah, you were a very big
influence. The
influence
aura
on that.
perspective versus the biochemical, bioelectrical, which later in life I really grew to understand. So you were the entry into Reiki.
Nice.
And then fast forward later, I'm out and I meet someone giving Reiki classes, and I hit two different things. I was on quest to get, the achievements of the United States mentality. We achieve things and look different. So I wanted the achievements of becoming a Reiki master because I understood it in philosophical, theoretical sense. So I burn those classes out to get that understanding and then try to put that into practical utilization. What I missed is that little stretch was merely like, I did it in such a short time I could have bought a book on it, that it didn't give me the understanding of the time of practice.
The appreciation of the journey, the dedication.
Yeah, that was going to need to actually put it into practice. And for me,
because it was a crash course.
Yes, and be feeling like that I'm actually doing something. Now I know there's this faith-based energy goes where intention flows. You don't have to feel that. I do understand that foundation. But for me, I have also developed a feeling of existence differently. So if I don't feel it, to me there is not actually, I'm blocking, I'm doing something that's not causing this to move through as effectively as it could be, and it became practice.
Mm-hmm.
So once I dove over the years of practicing out between going to work, going to school, living life, years of that practice, then moving into understanding telekinesis and a deeper understanding of the whole physical plane, the etheric levels, then a deeper research into the astral, putting together my own Reiki system, or way of instructing Reiki, not system, way of instructing the actual lineage of Reiki. That's where I'm at, in a way that it pulled me to find it useful enough that I can give to people, and I feel like I am actually doing these sets.
Yeah, so and I remember those nights where you would practice. It was every night, and it was interesting because I was reading and doing, you know, my thing, and here you are completely going through the other door of energy. So we would both each be practicing reading, you know, doing our inner exploration. But it was interesting because every time I brought something back going, well, try this, it never worked for you. And vice versa. He would give me some really great advice and things to try and do, but never did they work for me. We were literally complete opposites in this journey.
That's funny.
So I'm going through dreams at this time, and we don't even recognize that. Like, we, you know, if we look at it bigger, we did not recognize that.
Not that early, no.
And so here he is doing the Reiki, the breathing techniques, which I could never quite grasp. I couldn't, through some faults of my own, through stubbornness, through, well, in dreams you don't need to breathe, you know. Breath work became very important for him. He figured out a way that worked for him. It didn't matter what advice I would come back from, you know, above that said, tell him to try this. He would come back with, it's not working, it's not working. And those years that I watched you go in the room, close the doors, and work through the breath, the energy, the movement, the very deep discipline, dedication was mind-blowing for me. You know, and I mean, it takes a lot. It really does. So I can understand your frustration on the crash course level.
Yeah.
I can understand your frustration when you're like, I have read all these books, I have applied them, and nothing quite is hitting it, although they each have their own jewel nuggets. And so it eventually evolved into you being able to put something together that you felt resonated enough that you needed to share this with others.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if they're having a hard time connecting or moving their energies, you know, but they have an open mind, you know, I think that was a wonderful, you know, way for you to be able to explore and come to that understanding enough to share it with everybody.
Yeah.
You know.
And if we're exchanging services for money on a topic that you're open-minded about, that in the normal perception cannot be physically verified per se. I mean, arguably there's aspects of scientific measure we can do.
And you did that too. It's not like it was all just, you know, energy work and mental magic, if you will. You actually did a lot of scientific research in regards to this.
Yeah. So
you know, like...
There's a bunch you can do. So, one, with the breathing you say, it's because I have a hyper-tuning nervous system from how I was just created. Breathing helps slow the nervous system and allows the nervous system to settle better. And when you can control that, you can settle your nerves faster. So I would do blood pressure monitoring or other types of monitoring on how I would slow down and how that would impact my blood pressure or whatever, to see if the breathing was working. And I found it was super effective, to include the fact of my own research from sitting and laying, to when you finally, at least for me, when I finally settle, there's a period of relaxation that I am fully aware of, but my muscles, if I allow them to actually let go and become body asleep, mind aware, I will literally start leaning over. And at that moment, for me, in the measure, is where I am actually at that, not sedated, but down-tuned nervous system, where I'm comfortable and balanced enough, I can actually work on letting go or do some deeper root practices on the energy systems, depending on where you're going with whatever you're trying to do. So the breathing ultimately led to the first experiments, and then once you can calm yourself, then you get something like an Egley wheel to verify that you actually have an energy signature by auditory sound.
Validation. I know you are about that.
Well, in the research, many of the explorers before me did much of the same things with the tools of their day. Okay, it's like, okay, so they say the electrons move, my electrons move, I'm that of energy. This thing right here says it can pick up these base fields. Can I make this thing beep? It beeps.
It did.
It doesn't need to beep at max. It just needs to beep enough to show that I have an energy field.
I remember when he came out and said, hey, we're going to try something. And he put his hands around it, and it would go beep, 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 beep. It was like...
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool.
So when he explained it to me, I went up to it, and you know me, I'm all about, it's going to work. And I sat there, and I was like, and it goes, beep.
He did start a little slow, it's funny.
Beep. I was like...
It's like good effort.
What in my chopped liver?
It didn't matter the speed.
But it did work eventually once I understood.
Yeah. And then the speed of its control is you calming and you connecting and you understanding differently versus the first slow beeps are just there to tell you it worked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like, I was really excited when I found out that you, because at the time I was in Ohio and you were in Oklahoma, Kansas, whatever, and you got that alarm Zeo, the Zeo, which I was mind blown because I'm a dreamer, and you're like, yeah, I got this alarm clock that you put this band on and it measures your brain waves or something.
Yeah, so I took like 18 months and I ridiculously got involved with like Tim Ferriss and a few other experimenters on engineering a perfect night's rest. Because
he was doing it
in the service,
soldier ass.
Yeah, in the service, I was like, okay, I want to get to a point where I'm here. I'm up in 6 hours. My time to wake is solid. Like I'm up, moving in less than 15 minutes. I've started brushing. The soldier thing, up, move, gone, kind of thing. So I was trying to do that, and I was extremely successful. But in all those weird experiments, I found this $200 alarm clock that you wore a headband and it connected up like the Muse or various headband ones now that you see out, and it monitored your brain waves, and then you unplug the fat SD card age. It was yellowing by the time I got rid of it. I'll tell you the plastic. And you put it in and it would come up on their system and give you a chart of where you were and let you analyze where you were with your sleep. Did you drink too late? Did you wake up and everything else like that?
It's the early version of like Sleep Aid.
Well, yeah, like 8 Sleep now is a whole mattress system. It's like a nervous structure that does the same thing for you and your partner. But yeah, it was wonderful to try to get best sleep. And I was going for the sleep factor, not the dreaming or lucidity factor, which I probably could have just as easily. I was so all about that. I was like, I can't believe your state's away. I've got to have it. I've got to try it. But yeah, that was but anyway, so you did a lot of scientific validation on your energies and stuff like that. So then from there, you really, I watched you dive into this telekinesis, through, the fact that you knew you could move these energies. And in the telekinesis, I gotta tell you, I was so impressed because, like I said, I'm an Oneronaut. In my mind, the spoon is already bent. But to bring it into reality and make it happen, that's a whole different level of energy, movement, and understanding. And I remember one of the first times you came out of the bedroom, and I was like, well, how did your session go? And you were like, fine.
and you give me this cup, and it's got like 4 different bent spoons. And I was like, no, you didn't. And you're like, yeah, once you understand it, it's fun. You got more spoons? So that was really... No, we didn't. We actually had to go to thrift stores to find spoons. But that's a whole different episode. Anyway, so when you practice telekinesis, one of the questions, what do you believe is actually happening between consciousness, the energy, and that physical matter?
So, I think first you need to understand that I view the physical plane as separate layers, and that every physical object abides by that belief structure. So if I am made of a dense, liquid, gaseous form and multiple layers of etheric body, so is the object I'm moving. So we have to just figure out where we meet together and harmonize, and then the movement becomes second nature because we know how to connect. We know how to settle in and harmonize enough. To think the guy who channels Bashar, Daryl Anka, says it in a very specific way. If you find it, by all means, go watch it. It's an older one. He describes it as connecting is harmonizing a vibration in which both parties can then use to communicate on. Okay. And it's very similar to that. Yeah. That object has itself a dense, gaseous, liquid form. That's why it's solid. Yeah. And then we have these layers upon it that make it in this space, right? If we meet on those layers within our fields, our energies can harmonize and work together. And then, like I have seen other telekinesis people, they can sit 3 feet away and on command, right turn, left turn, stop,
you
roll.
Did.
It's fascinating.
You actually,
It.
I remember when I said, I want to do that. And he was like, okay, I've been practicing for years, on the movement, but by all means go in there and
it's not impossible. You can do it very quickly, but then once you've done it and you are like, the rest of your mind and ego decides now to show up, and now you're like, why can't I do it again?
And that's
now you have to learn how to do it, and it's not just a new thing that happens.
I know, because I was so elated.
Yeah.
Because I went in there and I was like, magic happened. I felt like I was in a Disney film of, what is it, the Mickey Mouse magician.
Fantasia.
Fantasia. And I go in there and I'm, first of all, really focusing. Then it was like, all right, chill out, Jody. Understand for what it is. So, and it happened. And I was elated. I was over the moon. And then for like the next week, I'm like, I'm just going to pop in his energy room and play around. And then it just didn't happen. And I told him my frustration over it. I said, well, the first day, it was going whatever way I wanted it to. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, that's because, and then he broke it down. But the whole point of that was, I was so frustrated. I was like, forget it, energy. I don't understand energy, obviously, And you're like, you can't give up after a week. So then he come home and he says, I got you something. And I was like, because he always thinks of me. And I was like, what's that? And he goes, well, on your energy exploration, here's a game. And he put this game down. And I said, oh my gosh, what is it? And you're like, well, it's kind of like a Fisher Price, my first energy game. But let's play. And I was like, I didn't know whether to be insulted or not. So I put the headband on. And he says, all you got to do is think about the ball moving across the line. So I did. I closed my eyes, and and all of a sudden, I hear the Fisher Price lights, and I'm watching it go, and I'm like, I'm doing that, and he's like, yeah, and you can, if you believe in your mind that the energies, and so you're breaking it down on showing me how the energies move once you understand those layers.
And what's cool about that is that's another testing tool. It's I forget the exact board game's name. Mindflex Duel.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Competitive version of it from NeuroSky. what they did is the technology is another one of those headbands, just like the sleep monitoring ones, but it's set to, once you hit a specific kind of balance in those, it triggers wirelessly
the
into the machine that then operates based on how you're really, like you said, believing up, down, that flex of where you are in that control of your mind, how balanced your brain waves are. So it's super cool. Is it 100% legitimate? I don't know. I've played with it quite extensively.
We actually had battles.
It can be
to see who would
the
win
beginning
across
can
the
be
line.
very frustrating, like she's saying, because you have to settle yourself. And that's the thing about each object. Just because you can move a piece of aluminum foil doesn't now mean you can move a piece of paper. They harmonize differently on the full spectrum. So now you have to know if this is 87.9 or 87.7.
Yeah.
For like radio dialing digital.
Yeah, now you gotta find two that.
Yeah, so then each object ends up having that until you've practiced enough, at least from another telekinesis practitioner that can move quite like stones and certain other stuff. He says once you've figured out the general frequencies, the tuning in becomes much faster.
And so then talk to us about the discipline and consistency on why that is so important.
Well, anything, consistency is the keeper of all secrets.
Yeah, that's
it's just straight up. It doesn't matter what you do. And like she said, every night at 7 p.m. for 30 minutes, I would go. I had a routine to meditate, calm my nervous system, structure myself, prepare for the work, do the work, and be open and mindful of the work for the period of time until I became frustrated or tired or exhausted, because after a while of trying to concentrate by not concentrating, holding that balance gets weird. So you get exhausted, you cause yourself headaches. All those are weird side effects of trying to put yourself in these weird places. They'll go away quickly, but consistency breaks those down now. So now I can sit for 30 or 45 minutes on the fly, no aches, no pains, no tension, and I can, majority of the time, will get movement right off the bat through the most of it. And that's enough for a signal now for me. Now, if I go back to practicing, I can get back to where I have much more of a distance. But then again, consistency, because just because you spent 1 month sitting 1 foot away from it doesn't mean it will take you less time when you're 6 feet away from it. Because now you're like, well, do I travel?
Yeah.
Even if I've harmonized, is my harmony strong enough to travel? And you make up that you can't possibly travel when all you're doing is breathing into this field and having a non-linear energy transfer and coming back.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter the distance.
No, and so basically the consistency, like you said, you have to.
Yeah.
It is the practice. You're not going to harmonize musically in this analogy. You're not going to harmonize musically without practice. It's just not going to happen. You'll get lucky. You will have tons of like awesome spikes and great things, like bipolar practicing is what I call it. But you'll have a lot of equally frustrating periods where you just cannot be consistent, and that's it. You just have to be consistent.
Yeah. So now that brings me to this question. You and I actually approach consciousness from complete different ends of the spectrum. Where do you think our paths complement each other the most in this?
I look at it as we just enter the same path at 2 different doorways.
Yes.
You entered through dream connection that can take you right into the astral plane. So from physical to the next plane out. I had to start from figuring out the physical density of myself, the discovery of the ether fields and layers within the physical plane, and understand a bit of that before I was interested to step into that plane. And then fast forward, now I'm working more to get back and play around at that doorway so that I can have a better way to instruct others to get in and out, which matches you better because your abilities once you're there are much more skilled to teach people because you practiced within while I practiced here. So I think we're following much of the same path.
I think we are.
We just entered at different levels and are moving about that
So
space.
being able to complement each other, while you're able to help them get to this level,
Yeah.
then I am able to help them connect better on a...
Yeah, so we'll name them for how I'm presenting this. So I will help you balance you as the body.
Which is so important because I'm
dense,
learning
gaseous,
that.
liquid, 4 layers of etheric self in the physical plane of density.
Yeah.
And then when that's enough, right, each person has a different measure. There's no there is no box.
You've reached the magic moment.
You will know.
Yeah.
Then, because I don't spend my time in the astral plane working in that plane as you do, you're waiting for people that are coming in and going, like if you look at very old cartoon magicians, like the apprentice would pop up into something where the magician was. It was like, oh, nice of you to show up, and then they go.
Oh, yes.
So you're waiting for a student to kind of pop up and go,
yep. Now what?
I've made it to this plane.
And now
I'm
what?
aware that I'm in this plane, and you go, good, now let's take a walk.
Yeah,
so
that's
there's
fun.
kind of a handoff there as we move up the planes of existence. And if you look at how we approach this, that those 2 planes are the ones that wrap the full personality and the lower desires that shape ego. So the more we can balance a person throughout both of those planes and complement, I prepare them to then pass on to you. The better they can be at controlling their ego, their personality, their emotional self, and in how we think. I think both you and I think this, just have a better overall existence.
Oh, yeah.
Just simple as that.
And I've learned so much through having to balance the physical part through connecting to be even more so expansive. I didn't realize the importance until you came along, how utterly important it was to understand this, to be able to connect. So, for that, I do appreciate it and I love it. And I think people out there would also appreciate being able to understand that, to be able to help themselves in their journeys.
Yeah. And what you're discussing there, too, I want to make clarity on it. It's not a perfect status. The foundational body has to be in a balanced state of understanding, which that's not easily definable in this sense because each person is a bit different. Then those movements in existence become capable because you become foundationally capable.
Yeah.
Like when people, a prime example, when people have these miracle experiences that they just get these whiteout visions all of a sudden and everything else like this, and then they're dazed and they're almost in like a state of shock from getting this. Well, yeah, that was something from like the mental plane giving you a message saying hello to a foundational body that wasn't ready for that amount of energy in the message.
Oh my gosh.
And it overwhelms your nervous system and your being, and that's what made you kind of click out. Because it was simply too much. And that's the foundation she's talking about. It's not perfect. It's a foundation of you that is ready to receive something much, much larger and not break. In a sense, for that moment. You can actually translate it, digest it, move through it. That's what it is. And each plane has that layer that it really won't let you move too much further consistently without having those foundations built, because your vessel itself just isn't prepared for it.
So when we started discovering, the abilities and everything, the practice, we eventually got together and sat and did a lot of work together in regards to now energy and subconscious and all your clairs.
It didn't nearly make sense, right?
Right.
Here's a dream perspective and here's a energy alchemy perspective, and how do those now mesh? And it was until we could figure out where they were within these planes, we took this planar view, that then it shaped right where those and their focuses were, so then we came together as a better flow.
And that's why we decided that 4E's Academy at this point was born into existence. Because if we can, mesh it together to be able to help understand, the two different doorways out of many,
oh yeah,
it would definitely help. What did you originally envision when we began to create 4E's?
I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. The X-Men Academy. Right.
The
like that's a
X-Men
child
Academy.
in me. Right.
Oh my
right.
word. That's so funny.
That
that's
kind of
great.
thing. Now I know that's not realistic,
but
summed it up. When you're thinking of what we're talking about, telekinesis, moving through astral planes, being able to suspend between planes of reality and move through those with information transferring between the two, like what I learned here transfers here, here transfers here, and that stuff, it gets mystery schoolish kind of like. So yeah, in the child's mind of all of us, I'm like, I'm about to open X-Men Academy. Like what?
Yeah.
And in reality, it more paints down to a concept of how we understand and work with the existence we have, which can seem like superpowers in some case, because yes, moving something without touching it still is fascinating. Whether having done it or not, it's still fascinating.
Expanding on your own clair abilities.
Yeah.
The
clear sense of things. Yeah, figuring out how you interpret the world even
thus
clearer.
Making yourself more magical than what you think. So, what is it that you hope that people experience through this academy?
So a part of what we built the Academy on was the fact, like we discussed earlier, consistency is a keeper of secrets. The longer you can actually do something, and this is not just by us and practicing. Look at any entrepreneur, athlete, business owner. I mean, Will Smith makes a statement in an interview way early in his career where the reason he is perceived as better in acting or what he's doing than other people is because when they're eating, he's practicing his lines. When they're sleeping, he's running on the treadmill. When they're doing a party or something, he's practicing his rounds. Like, he's so disciplined and so consistent. So you can find that everywhere. And then the other one is that you have, you grow, so self-confidence through self-governance.
Oh, see that.
We live, especially in the United States, we are very highly tuned people. And it's, you can blame it on 5G, you can blame it on this, you can blame it on too much caffeine, but ultimately our culture is tuned high. Processed foods, high caffeine intake, high electronic usage. We're just at that moment where we're just a highly tuned civilization in America that is experimenting with this stuff. Right?
And as far as our energies go.
Yeah, so without understanding how to down tune ourselves some, we react quick, we emotionally snap, we crash out is I think the new term.
Yeah, you snap.
I'm seeing all these different things when in essence, had you taken a breath, paused for 3 seconds, exhaled that out in a slow fashion, and done this consistently, you will impact your body to calm down so you make a rational, logical, healthy decision.
So maybe you don't need to run for that pill that's supposed to calm you down instantly.
Yeah, so through self-governance, and that is part of...
And responsibility.
Your angle with your Yangu, your awareness now governs you, is that the deeper we are aware on the physical, on the astral plane of who we are in existence, just the overall self-confidence we have, because we now govern our own existence. You could use the reclaim of sovereignty, if you will, but depending on where you are in your cultural existence on the planet, that means different things. So we'll go self-confidence through self-governance. So that's what I hope people understand, that consistency can answer a lot of questions that you don't know the answers to, secrets, and that you growing confident in yourself from your governance of yourself. Yeah. It kind of seems like there's more and it's deeper, but it is, because I see a lot of folks that just, they're not confident, and in some cases it's simply because they haven't pinned an identity they want to be. They're jumping between identities or masks. Jungian masks is a good example here, we're switching so much between them all.
We don't know
we're not
our
really
own
governing
true
ourselves because, one, we don't know how many masks we're wearing, so we don't know how fractalized we are. And then the ones we do have, we're not doing them that well. We're just getting them out of the way. So
it begs the question, can you recognize your own phase?
Yeah. So in this, I hope you learn how to govern yourself in existence to make your life better, and you have confidence moving through life because you know you're governing it. I mean, to the best of your ability, right? Depending on where we are in the globe, rather. There's some limitations on that, right?
And it also gets to the point where I believe that sometimes you just get so tired of putting those masks on. You just simply want to be you. And if being you allows you to just, explore who you are and be okay with that, then that's what it needs to be about, because then you find yourself in a happier state and your reality and your existence can follow, if you will.
Yeah.
If someone feels drawn towards the energy work, but they, doubt their own abilities to do so, or their confidence, like you said, where would you suggest that they begin?
Anywhere. So if you're doubting any of those things, the conscious mind accepts something new when it has proved to itself that it's capable of doing that, or that it is real. So if you believe that you're open-minded enough that you can, say, move an object with your energy field from your hands, then you need to practice that until you have executed that task, and know that there are boundaries between there that are going to want to stop you. It's just because it's the nature of how we've been trained. Our mind is built on that.
Maybe not so much of physical, but like time stopping. Like, I don't have time because of the kids or work or.
So no, by stopping, it would mean what belief says. Gravity says this can't move without something physically touching it. That's an ingrained structure in us that will unconsciously stop us from believing and allowing ourselves that this will move.
Oh, you're talking about like validation on
yeah. So practice any one thing that makes sense to you. Make the time. Practice it. Somebody used to tell me 5 minutes a day. I say 15.
It's funny. It's me.
Practice it. That's where you start.
5 minutes a day.
And find a way to practice and sit in a mindfulness of no expectations.
Just being.
It can become difficult, or I'm just going to go in here, I'm going to do this, and if it happens, cool. If it doesn't happen, okay, cool. I did my 5 minutes. I'll come back tomorrow and do my 5 minutes. Eventually, you will sit there, you will talk to yourself, and then all of a sudden, something's spinning out of crazy, or something's rolling around, and you're like, what is going on? And there you have it. So start.
Just start.
Start and try and disconnect the best you can from it while you're practicing it.
All right.
It's a hard thing to balance in.
And the last question was, if you could leave our viewers with one truth about human potential that you have learned through your experience, what would it be? Human potential.
I'm going to go with something slightly weird.
By all means, then share.
The medical science of the planet, per se, that we have learned from, says that the placebo effect is chemically broken after 30%. So what that means, that 30% of the time that when you go towards something that you think, in this example, I feel ill, 30% of the time your mind believes what you took solves the problem. So if you want to look at human potential, understand that your mind can do way more than you remotely give it credit for. If people have been proven to have moved objects, if people have been proven to think themselves unsick, and I mean this by the placebo effect that exists because we have thought ourselves to be better from taking a sugar pill. But we put that in our mind,
Yeah.
that object was empowered enough to solve the problem when we solved it ourselves. So human potential, it's
it's beyond,
it's beyond
anything we could actually truly understand.
Exactly.
Because if we did understand it in its full capacity, I feel like we would all be immediate, amazing magicians, and this world would just be flowing with color and swirls.
Yeah, in a sense,
pretty much.
But ultimately, your mind has a lot of power to support or deflate your potential. So I just did something, I think this past week, from Lady Nada, one of the Masters of Light in a specific cosmology, and part of that was speaking with the wisdom of the heart in a vibration of love. Like when you text, when you talk, when you're doing everything, when you communicate and respond, and then when you're in your mind. So if you're beating yourself up in your mind, 30% of the time you will succeed at whatever you're telling yourself in your mind, and that will be failure. And you're calling that 30% of that failure because the mind has that potential.
And it's funny because
to sway that amount.
I speak about that when I speak of my At the Threshold, At the Door
book.
At the Door book, Catherine Yates. Mm-hmm. One of the all-time greatest books ever. And it literally is only like 30 pages. Amazing. Yeah. Because she speaks of, the thoughts that enter your subconscious head, whatever. You don't even notice sometimes when love leaves.
Yeah.
Because you're too busy tending to all the, things that are coming in. But it is an amazing book. But in the end, that is, why we decided to create 4E's Academy, to bring it to you. Because understanding both the energy and the subconscious on these levels can really play a bigger part in a better reality for all of us if we just took a moment to explore ourselves and what we're truly about. And so that is what 4E's is about. That is why it was created. And that is why we feel very strongly on bringing this to you, our viewers, our people that understand this message. So I just want to take a moment and say thank you so very much for joining us on our very first podcast ever.
Yep.
Is that what it's called, a podcast? Of 4E's Academy. Thanks for joining us today.